Good morning, everyone. I'm Polly.
I'm Aaron.
I'm Paddy. Normally I never
Hi,
introduce
guys.
myself.
Exactly.
I know.
You
It's
just
crazy.
broke the sequence.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Today, I am the thorn between the two roses.
So, whoever doesn't know who Aaron is the founder of Streamtime. He lives in Christchurch, New Zealand. So, he came over for a couple of days to spend some time with the team. So, we thought it's a good idea to invite him into the webinar today. It's a good topic to
I'm
have.
not
as
sure
well.
it's a good idea.
It's a good idea.
We'll see.
Do you guys think it's a good idea?
We'll find out.
Yeah, that's true. Today's webinar is not your typical webinar. So today we are talking about our roadmap and what's coming up into Streamtime and what are we currently working on. And it's perfect that Aaron can actually share his thoughts on the roadmap itself, the thoughts behind it and the user stories behind them. And we can tackle into what's actually coming up in the future in Streamtime in the first few months.
Yeah, it's interesting to kind of understand how things start to get on the roadmap in the first place. What does it take? How does that roadmap get populated? Obviously, we're listening to people's feedback and based on what they need, what they're actually doing in Streamtime. It kind of helps build that out. But then, how do we prioritize what's on that roadmap, and how do we then go about synthesizing that into something that will become a feature in the product? And how long does that process take? Because it doesn't happen overnight.
Exactly. And we won't just talk the talk today. We will be showing some stuff as well, which is pretty exciting. Some prototypes, some pictures, some design work that has been done so far. So that's super exciting.
Yeah, and we have some giveaways today as well. So that's pretty exciting. So we're going to give away a T-shirt to the best question that comes through later on. And we also have some pretty exciting coffee mugs, don't we? I think we might give some coffee mugs. Depends on the question. So this is a T-shirt that's getting given away today.
Also black.
Also black. It's Black Wednesday. Yeah, we all got the memo, except Simon.
Excellent.
Didn't get the memo, but we have a T-shirt for him if he needs to put that on later, off camera. So this is the To Do Done T-shirt. This is quite new. This is some of our new swag. Very exciting.
New. Yeah.
So
Hot off the press.
And there's also a night club version, which is probably, I'm not sure if it'll show up because everything's so black today. But can you? Oh, look, it does, doesn't it?
So good.
What does that say?
Done.
It's pretty cool.
We do have white versions as well, but today is the Black Wednesday. So.
Yeah, and quickly, while Paddy's getting questions and stuff ready, we have some coffee cups, and if they come in real close to the camera. So, oh, look at that. To drink and then done. You were going to have a coffee today, weren't you? But
I was.
Didn't eventuate.
No, I didn't. I ran out of time. Yeah. And I'd already hit my coffee quota for the day.
Yeah, fair enough.
Yeah, I've got to sleep tonight.
Okay. So some great giveaways. This is the first time you've done giveaways?
First time,
Nice.
I think.
Oh, my goodness.
My first time,
That's
that's for
exciting.
sure.
Yeah, same. My first time. So
Great
pretty
idea.
cool. So yeah, get those questions ready as we go, and we will choose a winner at the end, or some winners.
Yeah, and welcome everyone. Feel free to introduce yourself as you're doing right now. If you have any questions, just shoot as you go. We'll cover them throughout the webinar.
Ask us anything.
Ask us? Oh, anything.
Anything. Anything. Yeah.
So as we kind of dive in, I don't know, maybe Aaron, you can talk at a high level what we're about when it comes to designing Streamtime. What are we interested in doing in that process to make sure that we create a product that our users will use?
At all times, it's about just trying to get it better, keep improving.
Yeah.
There's an awful lot that Streamtime does now. It's a really comprehensive product. It's one of those things that's kind of like Photoshop, I suppose. It does so much that very few people get to see everything, and it's really hard for us to demo everything right now. I mean, 2 years ago it was probably pretty straightforward to show everything, but now there's pieces that you just don't have time in a demo to go through, and they tend to come out over time. And these webinars, we can introduce new little tips and tricks. We've got the new hack time pages now that come up on our blog, which is pretty cool. Some really insightful tips there. So right now we're in the stage of just trying to, I guess, pull all this functionality together and clean up a lot of things as well. Like, we've added a lot of stuff over the past, quite quickly over the past year and a half. And some of those things are quite integrated through the app. So for example, some of the stuff that you've probably seen in previous webinars and inside the app are things to do with budgeting and forecasting is another word that's sort of starting to creep out now. We're looking at sort of cash flow and stuff like this. And for us to we put some of that features in, and we're putting those features in, but we also have to kind of go back through the whole app and see where else we need to, I guess, carry those numbers through and carry that language through and keep that thread together so that everything makes sense. Otherwise, we leave bits of the app behind.
Yeah.
And that's obviously a danger that we face.
Totally.
So how do we prioritize our work?
Yeah, so that's difficult because there's a lot. Like you guys are talking to customers all the time.
Yeah.
Our whole customer service team around the world is talking to people all the time, and we're gathering this information constantly. We get lots of feedback. We lots of people with their wish lists of can it do this, can it do that. We listen to it all, and at the end of the day, like we're just trying to keep the product as easy to use as possible, but at the same time as powerful as possible. Like it's there's so much going on to it. There's so many moving parts and it's a real balance. So I think in terms of how do we prioritize something, it comes down to who are our big, particularly we're getting a lot of larger clients now come on board with Streamtime, and those larger clients have specific needs. So a good example would be larger clients tend to need to have their teams broken down into teams, into smaller groups, to make it more manageable for things like scheduling and so on and so forth. And so, we have to think about, okay, how do we, how does that work? How do we make sure that Streamtime works well for teams? And so that's, so everything we do, we're sort of looking at, okay, how does that work? And how do we prioritize things based on that? And also there's a certain order to how we can do things. Like you can't release some things without another. There's a critical path that we have to follow. Otherwise, you release something and it doesn't really make sense until the rest of it comes out. So and that's really tricky. I mean, we'd love to release everything tomorrow, but it's just not like that.
But we listen to our clients constantly, as you said, and
do,
all of our clients have their desired outcomes, their needs. So that's where the user stories come along.
Yes.
So the user stories are essential part of our process here internally. And that brings us closer to our clients, essentially. So it's not really a feature request, it's end goal.
Yeah, and we think about like user stories. We think about the jobs to be done. Like, what's the job you're trying to do in Streamtime? If that job is, creating a quote for a client, then we kind of build all that out into a story for our design team, and then we do a lot of research around that story, and we ask a lot of customers and talk to them and look at what they're doing and what they're trying to do ultimately, and then see. So to try and rethink how we could make all of that process better from end to end. And there are a lot of touch points through the app as you go from end to end. So it's tricky.
Yeah, for sure. I think we can kind of kick off showing, something from our roadmap with a bit of a prototype based on one of the things that you just mentioned, which was trying to keep the product really simple, but design something that's also equally quite powerful. And I think this first thing that we want to show today is around partial invoicing. And that's somewhere where, that we've been doing a lot of design work and research on over the last few months. It's not really just happened overnight. And so what you're going to see today is not something that was just conjured, not something that seems like the obvious solution, but it's actually something that we've arrived at after, months of trying all sorts of different things.
Up to 16 years.
16 years.
This is honestly, people that have been with us a long time will know that part invoicing, progress billing, split billing, percentage, what do you call it? Like percentage deposit invoices, all those things are things that we have wanted to have for years, but it's a really, really tricky problem to solve for so many different reasons.
For sure.
And you're dealing with kind of accounting. Some of those reasons you're dealing with accounting numbers that tend to be really accurate, like invoices. Like an invoice is an accurate figure that has to go into your accounting system that builds your P&L, and that has to be dead accurate. But when you start thinking about an invoice that we're going to send out next month, is that you don't typically put that into your accounting system for next month. So that's kind of you can do to create a forecast. And so, we have to think about, okay, well, where does that live in Streamtime? How does that look in Streamtime? And because we want to be able to create a budget, a cash sort of forecast of what work is coming through so that we can give you smart insights. But the only way we can do that is if you can tell us how you're going to build a job. So maybe at the start of a job, you can sort of scope out how you're going to structure that job financially, and when it's going to be built out in those different stages. So
this must involve a lot of user calls, user research calls for sure. And it has multiple user stories behind that one partial invoicing feature.
Yeah, and I can guarantee we're not going to get it right for everybody first time.
Totally.
That's it.
And that's fine with us. Like we will listen to that feedback and we will iterate. But we've tried to build this in a way that we've got a strong platform now. Like we understand dozens and dozens of use cases, and we've tried to accommodate all of those in their own way. And there will still be ways that people will want to hack the system, and there'll be something really weird that they want to do that is unique to them. But hopefully you can.
And a lot of those stories have come from architecture studios as well, right? Who like to, their projects span years at a time, and so they work in phases, and they actually want to, partially bill a percentage or amount of a phase, and so that's been a part of that story as well, introducing this idea of percentage breakdowns, I think, across parts of the job. And so what this might look like is something like this, where first of all, we notice that we're able to create multiple invoices. So lots of people tend to work in a flow where you might have a deposit invoice up front, a commencement fee, for example, but then you also need to ensure that you're going to be remunerated for the rest of the project after that. And so it's important to create that invoice up front so we can get some visibility over around when that might be coming through. And
you can still create it going to the top there. You can create it from the job plan in this case, but you might also be able to do it from a quote. So just like before, you can do this now, but we're trying to just expand that out and give you another, I guess, granular level of options to be able to break this out and stage this and see what the heck is going on, either on a money or a percentage type basis.
Exactly. And kind of by clicking through here, we can see that I'm able to break this down at a really granular level across items across the job, or expenses. I can pick and choose different things, but here, let's just say it's a commencement fee of 50% for the entire project, which I can see, and then I can decide what I might want to bill in a month's time.
Looking at here, like that's that one at the bottom, that's invoice number 2, and up the top, invoice number 1. So at the moment, they're both on the 21st, but you
can change
say
the
that's
date.
a month out. Yep, great.
21st.
Wow, that's cool.
And
so this is exciting.
That could be the remaining 50% of that project.
I like
Perfect.
it. Great. So you've got your whole total down the bottom there, these invoices, what they total, so you know what you're about to do.
And the remaining amount, which is also super useful.
Right. So you can come back and sort of see what's left.
Exactly.
If you are doing these in different stages.
And what's been previously invoiced too. So
you could do this you've done this as a percentage. Could I do this as money? Like let's say I $10,000 on my first invoice, please, and then the remainder on the second. Could I do that? I'm trying to track poor Patty here.
Can we do this? This is a good question. Now I'm just going to turn that one off because we can't override this, but I could actually assign per line item.
No, that's
so
okay.
Let's say,
so the development, the discover phase is 10,000. Let's say that's 10,000. I turn the other 2 off. I could put 10,000 up the top there, and perfect. And then I could, cool. And then there's 83% at the top there. We want that as 100%.
100% next, so that's going to be the full 12,000.
Okay. Yep.
Cool. I can turn those other ones off.
Yeah.
And then maybe I'll want to select those on for that second invoice to go out next month, and that will be going out at 100%.
Yeah,
the remaining phases.
Nice.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I think.
Totally.
Yeah.
Do you think? What do you think? Don't forget
They
to
all
like and
love it.
subscribe. Don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel, of course.
Few people are clapping.
Click
That's
that reminder bell if you want to be notified of future webinars, and share our channel online.
So it's a balance of creating something that's really robust and structured, but also very flexible, and letting people work in all sorts of different ways, because the reality is that people do tend to work in all sorts of different ways.
Kind of like this webinar, robust and structured, but also flexible.
Pretty flexible.
Yeah, but also kind of like our job plan and items.
Yep.
When we're giving you a lot of freedom when you're planning your job plan and adding those items in, you can cost them differently the way it actually works for you. So it's perfect.
Was that a segue?
Well, yeah. So that's a job. So we could go ahead and create these. We won't. But what if I wanted to build the quote instead of the job plan? Like, what if I've quoted this job?
Yeah.
Is this job got one quote? Okay, it's got
one quote on it so far. I can see that it's been
you can
approved.
pick the quotes.
Yeah.
Great.
Nice.
Look at that.
Cool.
And then it pulls through the quote, and because you're billing 2 invoices, it's breaking it down for you. But you could equally just okay.
And
you
these
could
are
also
just
do it
those
old school,
line
right? You
items.
could still just do one. You could just create one invoice, traditional
Yeah,
method.
for sure.
Yep, brilliant. Look at
Totally. And let's say maybe it's just that first phase you want to do. Maybe you don't know when those other phases are actually going to be delivered. You'll create those invoices in the future when that's going to happen. You can see what's going to be remaining to be invoiced after this point in time.
So if I wanted to create those in the future, So let's say I don't know if you can do this, but I don't know if it's ready to do this. But if you create this invoice, would I be able to come back and see what I hadn't, what was remaining? Would it somehow remember that? Because that's always a bit of a pain, isn't it? Like I might build something and I have to go back to the first invoice to have a look at it and just compare what I did. Like, are we keeping track of what's been built somewhere on these at a sort of item level?
Yeah, absolutely. So at this point in time, we can see that $12,000 have been invoiced there on the project. And now I want to come in again. I'm going to use that quote again. I can come in here and first of all, that
shut the front door. I was not aware of that. Isn't that good?
It's amazing.
I'm gonna love this.
It's wild.
Don't forget to give us a thumbs up.
So this is something that we're currently working on. It's almost there.
This is due out Friday. Not this Friday, of course. Not this Friday, but some Friday. Some Friday in the future.
Seriously, sometimes we're not allowed to say when it's due, but here we go.
No,
it's here.
It's not due. It's not due.
It's structured but flexible.
Yeah. Cool. If you all clap your hands and just believe it might come. Awesome. Clearly, it's a long way off. Like, let's not kid ourselves, though. Like, clearly, we're a fair way down the track with this because this is not PowerPoint slides. This is something real by the looks of it that you're playing with here.
For sure. This is a prototype environment that we're doing research with users with at the moment. And we're doing that to conduct usability tests and also uncover any sticking pain points. So we're trying to get people to actually come in here and create invoices in ways that we're asking, but also ways that they currently do it themselves, ways that we might not have thought of in order to kind of get insights to how our users are doing things, and also just to uncover things that we might not have found yet. We can do all the testing in the world and might not find something that isn't quite working perfectly until someone who uses Streamtime every day in their real.
So maybe if this resonates with you, this part billing, multiple of a quote of a job plan, why don't you tell us, and maybe we can add you onto that early test list, early research list. Totally. So if this is something you do or you try to do or you just dream of doing, then let us know. And either in the chat or just by sending us a message, and Patty and Polly can make sure that you guys are included in the early test list, which I'd expect that will be happening soon by the looks of where this is
on
at.
Friday.
Absolutely.
Maybe on Friday.
So moving things along, something else that's currently on our roadmap that we're looking into, it's been on there for a little while, is this idea of a project timeline and phases on a project. And we've got some more screens to show here.
So as a project manager or producer, I would usually plan my job pretty visually. So I want to add my milestones on the job. I want to add dependencies in the job and share that project timeline with the client to get that approved, sign off, and start working on it. So in case there's a change, and change happens all the time in our industry, you can shift the whole phase into a different date, which is what dependencies are here.
Yeah. So let's talk. Have we talked about phases yet?
Phases, not
right.
yet.
So okay. So I really hate this language for a start. So I mean, this is all just internal language for the time being. I'm not sure what we'll call these, but people do think of these as phases or stages or whatever's. And it's just, you can sort of see it there: discovery phase, design phase. So that might be free entry text, and it's sort of just creating a divider between all your items, and you can move items in and out of these different divisions and create as many of these divisions as you need, so that you can actually break that job to another level. So you kind of have what we're calling phases, and then you've got items, and underneath items you've got team members, and for each team member you've actually got, of course, tasks from the to-do screen or the schedule, and then from there will ultimately be time track time. So that's a lot of stuff for us to try and present into one screen, and so that is a big challenge, to be honest. It really is our biggest challenge, is how to get that much information down there.
Because what we're really doing here is adding another level of granularity within a job to plan things out.
Which means another level of complexity, right? And let's not kid ourselves. And it's tricky. And where do these flow down? These are the things we have to think about. If we're going to put these in, where else will you see these? Do they just live on a job plan? Are they just simple dividers, or are they somewhere else inside the app as well?
For sure.
And I'm not answering that now, though.
No. But a good example of that is what you were saying earlier about having one piece of work ready with another to kind of go out. Or there is some sort of system and process to those releases and the work that needs to be done when you're prioritizing. But the partial invoicing we just looked at has now been designed to be able to incorporate phases as well. So those two have kind of been thought of together and coexisted in a design process, so that when you're invoicing, perhaps you're invoicing for a phase
Phase.
and not just your line items together.
So what we're seeing here with these colors is we're looking at items, right?
Yes.
Yep, and phases.
And phases. Okay, so yeah, we can see them there, and the little wiggly lines are kind of holding things together, like dependencies, perhaps, and there's little flags would be perhaps milestones. So these are little points in time where something important needs to happen, or a delivery needs to be made, or a deliverable.
Yeah.
So
the idea is you would share it with your client as well.
Yeah.
Get it signed off and start working on it straight away.
Yeah, it's really important to us too. Like this, you'll all know that we already have items available in the jobs list of the schedule. For those of you that use the schedule, have the schedule function. We already have items in the visible kind of like this in a time frame like this, and it's really important to us that with a new style like this, we make sure that styling is changed across to there as well, because it would be very jarring and confusing if we had these two different ways of seeing it. There's already a lot of different ways of seeing the same thing. So that's a challenge, design challenge we're working on right now. And you can see colors here. Tell us about those colors. What's going on there?
The colors are related to the different phases.
Right. So that's given us this opportunity to bring in color on a phase. So at this stage, that would only live here inside the job. And the reason for that, there's a couple of reasons. Like we get asked a lot, particularly for people that schedule, can I color code things? It's a common question we get.
All the time.
The problem, and the answer is we've approached it cautiously, because it honestly looks like a dog's vomited across your schedule, who's just had something really bad to eat. If you have everything all color coded, it actually doesn't really necessarily help. It can actually make it a lot worse. And we've tested different color palettes, and we've looked at other products that do deal with colors, and unless you're incredibly disciplined, it can actually look really messy and terrible, and it doesn't actually really help. So with the introduction of these phases and with the introduction of color on our job, to us at the moment that makes sense. So that's why you can see color on there. As to whether or not that comes through onto the master job plan, it's to be continued. Like we'll look and see how that looks. But color use of color is really it can polarize people. That's what I did there.
Yeah. Nice. Keeping things moving. One thing that has come up earlier already today that we'll show you a little bit of design work around. I think it's early stages, but in terms of how it will be, how it will kind of exist in the product, and an example of that is around this idea of teams.
We're seeing more and more larger companies signing up to Streamtime, which is amazing. And their request is pretty much they've got different teams. So instead of looking at 60 people on the schedule all at once, it would be so much easier to just group your teams together. So you only look at one team at a time.
And one thought around how we might do this is by using what we might call something like a team tag. We're not exactly sure how this will look or work or what it's going to be called.
Not to be confused with tag team, which is a different thing. Yeah.
It's very different.
Well, none of these terms are necessarily final. They're just ideas. We could call it threads. They could be threads or something. So these threads are going to be grouped any way you want. And so you can see quite clearly here, you've got developers and we've got someone in a UK office perhaps. So yeah, and so that would just help you when you are planning out a job or planning out something on the schedule. There we go. So you could sort of see, I can view things perhaps by teams, and I can open and close just one team at a time. And if you've got 50 or 60 staff, it's pretty important to be able to do that. It's a bit of a pain to not be able to do that.
For sure.
Totally. And recently, when we did make some big updates to the schedule in terms of its performance, we also did make some changes around how that filtering is viewed. And again, that was done all in the name of being able to visualize those filters better, with the thought of maybe being able to introduce teams into there. So it's really clear when you're looking at that schedule exactly which teams or people you're looking at in the schedule.
And if you're using the schedule and you noticed in the last few weeks since our last release that there's been a big improvement, that particularly the to-do schedule, like you can see here, in speed and performance and usability, let us know in the comments. We'd love to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. The next thing that we'll talk about, and we'll talk about this probably briefly because we are just diving into a lot of research about this. It's pretty early in its development, but it is something where we are certainly, I think, committed to moving towards is collaboration and file attachment.
This is a big one.
It's a big one, and it's come about because users are using so many other tools to collaborate with their clients. Think like Trello and Basecamp, and we want to help simplify their workflow and allow them to do everything within Streamtime. So pretty much just reducing the number of tabs you're going to have open in the windows, reducing the number of different subscriptions you're going to have, and we realize that we're in a pretty good position to be able to offer something to our clients. So this kind of indicates for us a bit of a shift from maybe just studio management into larger project management.
Exactly.
And do you want to talk a little bit about?
Yeah, I mean, the screen that you can see here is we probably showed this before in a previous webinar.
So now a roadmap.
Yeah, it's a concept of a job canvas, and those little things on the right hand side with the color selectors, the little tooltip things, not tooltips, what are they called? Tool selector, toolbox or whatever. They kind of mimic the design of or the language of a design tool, like Illustrator, that sort of thing, Photoshop. And the idea being that you can kind of open these windows or layers upon a job, any particular job. And in this case, you can see a chat window's popped up. There's an activity window that you can switch up. There's some files and things like this. So that's a design language that we're kind of exploring. Like I really like that. It's it needs testing, of course.
Yeah.
It's different. The thing I like about it is it's different to any other project management tool. It's not boring, and that's important to us. But it also has to be completely usable. So, we'll make sure we user test this before we rip into it.
The idea is you use only Streamtime, and that's it. So you stay in one area, you communicate, you attach files, you comment.
Yeah.
In Streamtime.
Yep.
People, we know you guys are using different tools and on top of Streamtime, like Trello and other Slack as well.
Yeah.
But ideally, we just want you to have everything in one place.
And there's and some of the challenges we face with this stuff, in particular file attachments, is data costs money, and we have a large user base and it's growing, scaling exponentially, and so we're mindful of the fact that with that kind of with all these users potentially attaching files and things like that, there's associated costs behind all of this stuff here. So not shown here is we are revisiting some of our price plans as well. So and I think that's going to be quite exciting to some of you in the sense that some of the things that we're talking about with our pricing is again suited to more larger agencies that want a bit more certainty, but also want full functionality, and they're wanting this kind of stuff and more. It's not just that we're not stopping there, are we?
No.
So that's pretty exciting.
Totally. We kind of are getting towards the end of our 30-minute session today. I suppose in terms of wrapping things up, it'd be good to just add one more area in Streamtime that we've done some exploratory work into is priorities. It's very much a V1 at the moment based on how we whipped that together pretty quickly last year with our hackathon that we had here. But we've done some more research and a bit more design work in terms of, listening to the feedback that we've had around priorities, which have asked for things which, you probably would find in other Kanban tools, like being able to move your columns around, have multiple boards, being able to share these. These are all things that we've heard a lot. And so we are doing some exploratory work into what the next stage for priorities might look like, and thinking also about, maybe introducing the notion of a board view to a job to kind of round it more to a project management style, like this collaboration and file attachment work is getting towards. So again, thinking about how these things will work together and be delivered and released together, I think they'll probably see those two, working together in the design phase.
And across all these things, we're also thinking about your ability to share some of this information with your client. In particular, I'm looking at you, timeline. I'm looking at you, maybe priorities board.
Yeah.
So these are sort of things that we're thinking about. Could you share those, and could you actually interact with your client, put some stuff on a board, and that's what people are doing with Trello, for example, if they're using cards, and it's what they're using Google Sheets to do if you've got a timeline. And fair enough, they're great tools. We use them ourselves, but it'd be great if you could just do this inside Streamtime without having to rekey data, and if it was real time data, you didn't have to update things. It was just all happening like this. So that's our goal.
But we find that people love our current priorities too. Still,
Yep.
we can make it better.
It's an iteration of that. So we better get to these questions, or we never get. There's a lot of questions coming through. They're all wanting to win these prizes. Patty, come on.
There's a
There
lot.
are a lot of
happening here.
comments.
We should
yeah.
talk. We should just let Patty cover those out, Polly.
Sure,
What are you most excited about here with the stuff you've seen today? Because you're on the ground. What excites you the most? Or what do you think will excite your clients the most?
Well, all right. So talking about me and my clients, I know that file attachments and team communication is pretty big, and job timeline and phases. I hear that a lot. I talk to my clients about it every day, and the prospects or actual clients, we are all looking forward to having that job timeline ready to go and be shared with clients, because that's just another way of planning a job in a granular level, I guess, and being transparent with those clients as well.
That's cool.
It's important.
Excellent. That's given Patty enough time to find a question.
Did I
Come on in.
pass?
Come on a bit closer.
Can I get a t-shirt?
My favorite question is this one here from
Go on.
Nadine, who's very honestly just asked, may I please have a Streamtime cup? Which I'd
Really?
say,
This one here? Wow. Is she worthy? Come on. Let's kick next question. Let's decide at the end. Come on, maybe. Okay.
So there seems to be lots of chat happening between Magda, I think Simon, who's helping us out from the background. Thanks, Simon.
Yeah,
No
look at him.
shout outs.
You need to wear the black t-shirt.
So she's
Next
asked a
time.
good question. You mentioned sharing this with the client. I think she's referring to a job timeline. Do you think that there will be an export function for this visual timeline? How would it be shared?
Yep, I do.
Absolutely.
That's a good question,
How do
and
you
I
think
like
that would be
that.
shared?
How do I think it's shared?
Yeah.
Probably through a link. The best way to share it would be probably through a URL link,
Yeah.
but you should also be able to download it out to a PDF or something, because I mean people want both.
Yeah.
And you shouldn't be printing things in this day and age. You know, we're trying to save the planet, and you know, what do you call it, global something evacuation and blah blah blah. So you need to make sure that you don't print too much stuff. Apparently, so it's PDF. Let's share that via the email system.
Yeah.
Let's send a link. I mean, the good thing about a link is it is live and updated in real time. It's harder for us to build, and
So
it
the
also
link-
has security around it. So it doesn't mean that's going to be first cab off the rank.
For sure.
Yeah.
And I think there are other parts of the invoicing work and the shared timeline work that we haven't actually seen today, which, using that, just having a link kind of allows us to do, is by being able to let notify you when the client's seen these things, when the client has received the timeline or viewed it or has seen an invoice.
That's very helpful.
Trying to be a bit more proactive about, letting you know or keeping you in the loop with these things, just because we can. And the link lets us do that. I'm not sure if a piece of paper will.
And I feel a T-shirt is coming your way for that question.
I think so.
Yep.
Yeah. Nice one, Magda.
Yeah. Send us your direct message us your size and preference.
So Lou has said being able to make and share a timeline with a client here would be good. I spend so much time creating one in Excel, so that's fantastic to hear from you.
Awesome.
Lou, Magda said she's mainly thinking about how do you share it without sharing info that you don't want to share. So there be
Hide
different
things.
Yeah.
different-
Oh, yes. Yeah, we think
Good
about
point.
this. Yeah, we think about this, like the show hide stuff. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that's a good thing about these cards. This is the priorities cards is that you could potentially set up a job board that you could share that only puts cards on it that you want your client to see and interact with.
Yeah.
And that's obviously very important. Yeah. And same with the timeline.
Yeah, being clear about what information you're seeing internally and what the client's going to see.
Definitely.
Cool.
And I think even with chat and dialogue, it's important that it's possible that you want to have, like for us, for example, when we talk to you guys through our intercom app, which is when you chat with us, either through email or through the on-screen chat, we do, believe it or not, it'll be a shock, but we sometimes have internal conversations that overlap on top of those conversations, because sometimes it's a case we might need a little bit of internal help on solving something.
Yeah.
We don't need that to go into the chat with you, so we can do that. So we're thinking of things like that as well, where you might be talking with your client, but also you need to talk to your team about something before you come back. So I think that sort of stuff is important as well.
Great
Cool.
idea. Cool.
Great. There are no more questions that have come through that I can see, at least. If anyone did have any final questions for Aaron or Paulina or myself, if anyone really wanted to throw a good question in the ring to get their hands on a coffee cup,
Coffee cup.
asking for a coffee cup
Come in
is
blue
one
as well,
way.
don't they?
They do.
There are
There's-
two colors.
Yeah, I think the blue is called Fajoya. That's the color.
Fajoa or
Fajoa.
Yeah.
Fajoa?
They're all-
No,
that's
that's Fajoa. That's the
that's
color of Fajoa.
Fajoa. Okay.
Well, that's the color of Fajoa.
Okay.
There's no blue Fajoas.
There was. I can't remember the blue one then. That must have been.
I think the blue one
Fajoa.
would be called like Morning Sky.
Morning Sky. I feel like they were all New Zealand words.
Oh, okay.
I think
Okay.
that was the trajectory that this
Yeah.
colour scheme had taken
Okay.
with the naming.
It's called Wanaka.
Monica.
Monica.
Could be. It
Ah.
actually could be.
It
Yeah.
could be.
Yeah.
We're calling it that. If you know where Wanaka is, and you can answer that question, you're going to get a cup.
Oh, we have a question.
So Tom's got a question about the functionality of our iOS app.
Oh,
Are we tackling
yes.
it? Are we doing anything
No.
else with it?
No, nothing. Not a scrap. Not a scrap diddly. But if we triple your subscription fees, we could do something right away.
Yeah.
It's really expensive to build iOS apps, quite frankly, quite honestly. And that was a really expensive one to build. And we are focusing on it staying robust. iOS 13 is coming out next month. It's out now for people that are on the beta program. It works really well on that, by the way. But we have to work hard to keep it maintained on all those things.
Yes.
And quite frankly, if anything was to come out, and I'm not saying it will because we're not working on it, but it would be an Android version as well.
Okay.
I think that would probably come before we did more on the iOS.
But it would
But
be
we're
good
not
to
working on
know.
that.
We would be good to know what are you looking for in
Yeah, it's
iOS
just
apps, Tom?
it's really hard. And I think also with iOS, I think where it would get interesting and where the first thing we would probably do, or the next thing we would do with iOS would be some of this collaboration, because when customers chatting to you, you want to be able to probably have that at your pocket. You're out and about. It's
On the
easy for
go,
you to reply
yeah.
to a quick message about a job. And we want Streamtime to be the main way that you're communicating with your clients, then we probably want that to be a notification that pops up on your phone, that you have with you all the time, so that you can be, putting notes in, you can be maybe taking a picture and uploading it into the attachments and stuff like that. So that would make sense as the next thing that we would tackle, which is why we're not looking at it yet, because we're starting inside the app at those things.
A while down the track.
Probably visit it. Yeah, we'll probably revisit it again next year, I'd say. Yep.
Cool.
Nadine's got a question as well.
This is a good one.
If we want automatic invoices, is it in the pipeline to be done through Streamtime, or should we look at Xero for this?
What's great on which invoices?
Automatic.
Oh, automated invoices. So I think what you're asking for is invoices that repeat. Is that right? Repeating invoices each month?
So you don't have to set them up. They
Yeah,
can
like
be
almost like a
created.
subscription. Yeah, okay. Something we should take. It's something we're aware of for sure. It's something you didn't see today, but it's not. We are thinking about it. Yes, it's not necessarily the first thing that will come off the rank, but it's definitely something that we'd like to tackle that.
Great.
Cool.
How about we wrap it there? Nice one.
Thanks so
Okay.
much for joining us, Aaron. And Patty, as per
Thank you.
usual, thank you.
That's fine. You're going to miss Paulina for the next month.
Oh,
She's off to
yes.
France.
Wait.
Sorry about that.
Say what?
But we've got Simon there.
Yeah.
Might-
Thanks,
you
Simon.
might
Thanks to
finally
Simon for
meet
answering all
Simon
these
because,
questions and helping
yeah,
us on the line.
coming in
On
from
the line.
underneath. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. It's been great.
Thanks so much,
Fantastic. And
guys.
thanks again.
Bye.
See ya.